What if all Kukis disappeared from Manipur? A publication by Zalangam Media, think tank. The state of Manipur, nestled in the complex ethnic mosaic of northeast India, has always been shaped by its diverse communities. Among them, the Kukis, Meiteis, Nagas, Pangals, Manipuri Muslims, and several smaller tribes. Of these, the Kukis have played an integral, if often under-acknowledged, role in the growth and balance of the state. But what would happen if, hypothetically, the Kuki people disappeared from Manipur? It's a question not meant to provoke, but to reflect on what is lost when a people are pushed to the margins of their own land. In today's reality, the Kukis are no longer welcome in large parts of the state. Inflammatory rhetoric, systemic exclusion, and ethnic hostilities have increasingly made coexistence with the dominant Meitei population almost impossible. Despite being the second largest community after the Meiteis, the Kukis face growing alienation. This article explores what Manipur would look like if its second largest population vanished, and why, given the current trajectory, separation into two administrative zones might be the only peaceful and practical solution. 1. A devastated economy. Kukis are heavily engaged in both formal and informal economic sectors in Manipur. They occupy key roles in education, healthcare, security services, transportation, retail, and agriculture. Kuki-dominated towns and villages support thriving markets, trade routes, especially cross-border trade with Myanmar, and local economies through their entrepreneurship. Their disappearance would immediately lead to a 60% drop in the state's economic output. Businesses dependent on Kuki manpower and logistics would collapse. Government institutions in hill districts would become defunct or severely understaffed. Roads and transport systems would deteriorate without the communities that maintain them. Local industries, especially in agriculture, construction, and timber, would cease operations. Manipur's economy would plunge into deep recession. 2. An administrative power vacuum. Kukis currently contribute significantly to public administration. Their absence would lead to an immediate vacuum in governance across much of the hill districts. In this power void, the Nagas, also hill dwellers, would likely dominate all administrative and strategic positions in the upland regions. With no Kuki presence, the entire highland belt, which serves as the backbone of logistics and interstate, international trade, would be controlled by Naga leadership. The entry and exit points for goods, services, and strategic movements would be monopolized. This would heighten tensions with the Meiteis, who depend on these supply routes from the valley. 3. Collapse of the buffer zone. Rise of ethnic conflict. Geographically, the Kukis inhabit the middle hills that lie between the valley-dwelling Meiteis and the higher-altitude Nagas. This positioning has historically acted as a buffer, preventing direct ethnic confrontations between the two larger groups. With the Kukis gone, this buffer disintegrates. Direct territorial conflict between the Meiteis and the Nagas becomes almost inevitable. Clashes over land, political authority, and cultural dominance would intensify, especially in overlapping or disputed border areas. This could lead to prolonged ethnic warfare, displacing thousands, paralyzing governance, and militarizing civilian life. 4th, religious and political realignment. The departure of the Christian-majority Kukis would also alter the religious landscape of Manipur. The Nagas, also Christians, might find strengthened alignment with other Christian-backed political or social bodies, while the Meiteis, mostly Hindu, could see this as a demographic shift in their favor, but one that brings new religious tension with the Nagas. The Manipuri Muslims, Pangals, may choose neutrality, but could also be drawn into the political fault lines depending on how the balance of power tilts. In the absence of Kukis as moderating agents, polarization between remaining groups is likely to increase. 5. Decline in civil society and peace building. The Kukis are not just economic or political players. They are key participants in civil society, religious organizations, peace-building efforts, and humanitarian relief work. Their NGOs, student unions, women's groups, and churches have historically filled gaps in governance and provided relief during crises. Without these institutions, civil society in the Hill districts would face a severe decline. Emergency response, community development, and peace efforts would be slower, less coordinated, or absent altogether. 6. Political fragmentation and instability. Kuki leaders play a vital role in Manipur's legislative assembly, acting as power balancers in coalition politics. Without their voices, political control would become increasingly centralized and majoritarian, possibly under the Métis elite, leading to the marginalization of smaller tribes and minority communities. Such centralization could provoke political unrest not only in the Hill districts, but across the state. The Indian central government would be forced to intervene more directly, which could revive demands for greater autonomy or separate statehood among the remaining Hill communities. 7. Rising insurgency and security. Risks. Many Kuki militant groups currently observe ceasefire agreements with the Indian state. Their absence, however, could lead to new power vacuums in security-sensitive regions. Young people from other ethnic groups lacking hope and employment could be lured into armed movements. The militarization of the region would increase, likely triggering deployment of the armed forces and possible reimposition of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, AFSPA, eroding civil liberties across the state. 8. Separation, a logical and peaceful alternative. Given the prevailing hostilities and the political unwillingness to foster true inclusion, the reality is stark. The Kukis are no longer welcome in much of the state by the Métis majority. Recent years have shown a dramatic increase in ethnic violence, land evictions, and systematic exclusion, pushing the idea of coexistence to the brink of impossibility. While calls for unity have been made for decades, the lived experience of the Kuki people today is one of alienation, discrimination, and forced displacement. In such an environment, the idea of a peaceful separation in the form of two distinct administrative zones or autonomous regions is no longer radical, but reasonable. Such an arrangement would reduce friction, allow communities to govern themselves according to their cultural and social norms, and prevent future bloodshed. Manipur, under a dual administrative model, could emerge as a model of managed ethnic diversity rather than a battleground of conflicting identities. Conclusion: Manipur without Kukis, a dystopia in the making. The disappearance of the Kukis would not solve Manipur's problems. It would magnify them. It would trigger economic collapse, political instability, religious polarization, and possibly even civil war. Manipur would not be a stronger, more united state without its Kuki citizens. It would be a divided, weakened one. It is time to accept the hard truth. Forced coexistence under current conditions has failed. Rather than continuing to push the illusion of harmony in a fractured house, it is time to embrace peaceful separation through mutual agreement, based on respect, autonomy, and the right of each community to thrive in dignity. This article is a publication of the Zalengam Media think tank, dedicated to documenting ethnic dynamics, political analysis, and conflict resolution in Northeast India. Thank you for watching. Please do share and subscribe to our channel, Zalengam Media. Thank you very much for your support.